I'll wait a couple of more minutes. I think Matthew is coming and other people are coming also. Okay, I will start anyway. Thank you for coming into this section. You're not forced to come to this special section because this only concerns project Medea-Chart, and most of you or some of you are not related with the project anyway. So many thanks for all of you that came here today. Well, Project Medea-Chart is coming to its end. These lights, please. Okay. After 6 years of research, it all started about 7 years ago when I decided to submit a project proposal to the European Research Council for studying the origin, evolution, and use of the medieval and early modern nautical charts. For those not acquainted with the ERC funding, the European Research Council funding, it is fair to say that winning one of those grants has become, over time, a seal of excellency in European research, both in the so-called hard sciences as well as in the humanities. It is superfluous to remark that the process of preparing, submitting, and defending a proposal is extremely competitive, not only because of that seal of quality, which may open the doors of many research institutions in Europe, but also owing to its generous funding, which has permitted me to contract an international team of researchers for 5 years, +1 because of the pandemics. A distinctive sign of the ERC evaluation process, evaluation criteria, when compared to the national Portuguese counterparts, and I imagine the French, the Spanish, etc., I believe most of the Europeans, is its extreme simplicity and lack of bureaucratic requirements. According to their own terms, they are only interested in 2 things: the scientific excellence of the proposal and the quality of the candidate. For example, the proposed budget of my project, whose total amount was 1.2 million euros, consisted in a single page containing just a few lines with the expected expenses in personnel, services, and equipment. Why am I telling you all this? For a single reason: to draw the attention of the younger European researchers to this opportunity. If you have an excellent research idea, preferably an out-of-the-box one resorting to a novel approach, please consider applying to one of these grants. An implicit yet vital goal of my proposal was to contribute to the training of a new generation of historians of cartography prepared to apply novel interdisciplinary techniques to the study of old maps. It's up to you to evaluate the degree of success of that overly ambitious objective. Now, coming back to Project Medea-Chart, here is the general goal of the project as proposed in 2016 and its main specific objectives. All these objectives were addressed in our project with mixed degrees of success. As usual, trying to respond to a specific issue often raised other questions not originally considered. Also, unexpected problems of personnel when two original members of the Medea-Chart team left, Gonçalo and André, one of them too late to be replaced, had some impact and forced us to reorganize our efforts and be a little less ambitious in some of the research tasks. I'm not going to go over all these research objectives. All of you have a handout with you in your documentation with the published scientific outcome of the project over the last 6 years. We have not considered in that list the many international conferences our group has participated in or the multiple outreach activities directed to the general public, who is paying for all of this, to which we have given special attention. Our exhibition is a significant example of that outreach effort. I'm talking about informal tasks, informal talks, newspaper articles, radio broadcasting programs, interviews, etc. The book, some of you has purchased here, the small book outside, The Roundness of the Earth, A Redondeza da Terra, is a good example of our research activities. Most of you will agree that the most visible and appreciated outcome of our project is the Medea-Chart database. It was developed and fed from scratch by our team in accordance with a very simple architecture and progressively enriched and with powerful search and selection tools which are unique in the world. I gave up my initial intention of contracting a software house to do the job and decided to contract a junior computer expert instead, Ricardo. That was the right solution, and maybe he will explain to you later why. Some of you have expressed concerns about the future of the database now that the project is coming to its end. I believe we have found a reasonable solution for the few coming years. The system will continue to be hosted in our university, and Ricardo is ready to go on assisting in the routine management tasks. And I will continue, as long as my health permits, to go on being the curator of the system. On a longer run, we are already considering the possibility of migrating the system to here, to the Hydrographic Institute. I will now pass the word to each of the team members, who will say a few words about their own experience and achievements. I will start with myself, with just a short note about one of the main research subjects of our project, the genesis of nautical cartography, the so-called origins problem. The interesting point to note is that some of the developments we have achieved so far started with an informal discussion by email who involved some of our colleagues. Tony Campbell, Dick Fedler, Gregory McIntosh, our late Corradino, our dear late Corradino, Astengo, and others during at least 1 year, if not more. The arguments exchanged during that debate forced us to revise some of our interpretations, open new paths for research, and eventually crystallized in some publications. I recall my 2 recent articles on the subject, one of them still under review, and the many original contributions that Tony has published in his webpage over the last years. Okay, I will go on. Around the table, starting with Ana Nunes, our project manager and communication officers. Please don't go over 5 minutes. We will have we will all have the opportunity to intervene again later during this discussion. By the way, I didn't prepare their talks. They will tell what they want to tell. Let me go back.
It's okay. Just
Pode
it's fine.
falar
You
lá.
can leave it.
Okay. This is the team. Our team, the internal team, and our external international advisors.
Okay, maybe I wasn't supposed to be here, but anyway, I'll speak from here. So I think for me, it was a very easy task to manage this project because Joaquim knew very well what he wanted. And so I made very few suggestions, in fact, because I think he knew exactly where he wanted to go with the project. So he has to be congratulated on that. My humble contribution, besides the practical management, was in fact with the outreach activities. And we, together with everybody, we managed to set up a very nice series of articles in the local newspaper, national newspaper, Público, for about 6 months. Every week there was a new article written about an object or a chart or a personality that was important in the history of cartography. This was made in Portuguese. I always made sure that all the content was done in both languages, but when possible in Portuguese, because I think we owe this to the Portuguese as well, because history of cartography is not very known here as well, even though we had such a huge impact on this type of knowledge. What I can also say is we have a social media presence. It's not very active, but for a period we had the chart of the day, and then we had the chart of the week. And Ricardo, because we took a bit of advantage from the database to communicate on social media. So it was very easy because the images are beautiful, as you can all see. So it's quite easy to communicate history of cartography because of the beauty that you see in every object. So what else can I say? Regarding, for me, as a biologist, the challenge to manage a project in humanities was very interesting because even though the methodology of research, of course, is very different, the way that we think about the problems and the need for creativity is very, very clear in all subjects. So for me, this was one thing that I took away, is that having a team of multidisciplinary team with different backgrounds, it also improved, I guess, and made it more interesting. And this is all, I think. I don't have much to say. Just, yeah. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much. Šima Krtalić.
All right, I'll be very quick. I have a few thoughts. I guess what distinguishes me in a little bit is I kind of came to this history of cartography late, and specifically nautical charts. I came when the project had already started after some time, and I got to experience what it feels like for an outsider to try to get into this field. And in that respect, there's some things which I think are really excellent that I hope will continue among historians of cartography, but then also some issues that I faced that I think holds us back from expanding as a field and from people gaining a foothold. The thing which I think was wonderful is how unbelievably welcoming and helpful all of the people are in this small field. I was absolutely shocked that experts who I thought, well, I'll never know them more than just reading and citing them, would answer an email and be so welcoming and so charitable with their knowledge. The thing that's difficult and I don't know if it's resolvable, but for me it's a huge problem, is that a lot of the books which we're expected to read and expected to cite are difficult to get your hands on, or maybe don't even exist in your country. And I'm hopeful that somehow eventually we'll have more digitization, or maybe some kind of pirate ring where we can formally host these documents, because it's a huge bummer when you get a whiff of a good source and you waste a ton of time chasing it down, sometimes in vain, which isn't so much of a problem in other fields that I've had experience in. Coming from more of an art history and archaeology direction, to me it was very shocking in history of cartography, but most specifically history of nautical cartography, how sort of invisible these objects are in the broader cultural perspective. You could read all kinds of books about material culture of different epochs, about style and art history of different epochs, and it's as if nautical charts didn't exist. And I think this is a huge problem, and we're possibly going to miss out on a lot of real, true multidisciplinarity and fruitful collaborations if we don't start insisting on the existence of these objects and their worth of study. And one way, at least in my experience, that this interdisciplinarity can be productively put into practice is simply by getting to know the conservators at your archives. They know a lot. They can be a wonderful sanity check. So I think a lot of you already know these things, but if anyone ever felt shy or didn't think of the possibility, they're lovely people and we should talk to them. They really are trained eyes on the methods of producing artifacts from different periods. And they can also often point out when, for example, cartographers are approaching things in a way that's different, for example, from the methods used in other genres of image production. So yeah, I did my PhD so far in the context of this project. I feel I was held to a high standard, and I appreciate that. And hopefully I'll be able to continue to hold myself to that, and we'll continue this conversation about charts in the future.
Oh boy. I think it's the first time I have a microphone and my face on a projector screen or something like that. So this is like a grand premiere, or all right. So I mean I didn't prepare much. 6 years ago when I entered this project, I didn't know anything about nautical charts, and 6 years after, I still think I don't know anything about nautical charts. But I've learned a few things. But for me, this project is a very good example of how we can put technology to the service of the history of nautical cartography. So this was a collaborative work. I'm talking about the database. Probably most of you have already used it, fortunately. And this kind of work was not only from the Medea team, because we had several resources at our disposal. For example, the census of Dick Fedler, that was the main starting point of the data that we have in the database, but also many comments we received from the community, and with corrections, with data, with new images that would come to light and for us to use on the database. So in this aspect, I think it was a very rewarding experience in terms of a developer, because although you're working on a completely different scope and a completely different area, getting all these people to work together and reach a final product as we can see with the database, I think it's very good. So just to end, I want to thank the Medea team for this experience, because it was very rewarding as a developer. We had funny situations where sometimes I would be looking at bugs in the code I would be reviewing the code and I was like, who the hell wrote this piece of code? I was like, hold on, that was me. So this is like an experience also of personal growth and to learn new technologies. So also thank all the people that use the database, probably many of you, because of your valuable feedback. So this tool was made for you, made for historians, made for researchers, made for everyone to see these beautiful maps. And that's just a final note, because I'm also a techie person, not a mappy person, but a techie person. I also would like to thank the team that's been helping me with live streaming this workshop. It's working really great, and the guys that took the pictures. So sometimes we do not see them, but a lot of work is being done on the background. So I also wanted to express my gratitude towards them. Thank you very much.
I can't speak extemporaneously. Thank you for this opportunity to do research and writing and talking and reading and living the stuff I love. Thank you. Really, this is the wonderful opportunity for me to just, I don't know how to say it. I love old maps, and I wanted to talk about the excellent scholars I've been working with. They are immeasurable. Let me just put it that way. That I'm very pleased to have been working with such remarkable people, and perhaps more importantly is I've made new friends, and that means means everything. Now. Well, one thing I guess this is not on here, but we have an expression in the United States, which is I feel like a kid in a candy shop, which you can imagine what that means. It's like I'm here in the candy shop and I can just eat all the candy I want, and I've never been so happy before. I feel like a kid in a candy shop. I was telling my wife last night, working here is like, think of me as a teenager who learned to play a tambourine, and then I got invited by Bob Dylan to hang out with his buddies in his basement for 6 years playing music. So really, I look at these faces, all of these, perhaps not mine, and these are people I admire, and like Šima's saying, that one would not, in any other field, one would not expect the openness, the friendliness, and the welcoming that we have in the history of cartography. It's always been this way. And anyway, it's so some of you may know the project ends now, and I'm not returning to California. I'm going to stay here, adoro Lisboa. I think it's a wonderful city. And anyway, if you have time, if you've never been here before, explore it. But the other night, I put a world map up, gave my wife Zonia a dart, and I said, find out where we're going to go on our next vacation. So next week, we're spending 3 weeks behind the refrigerator. Thank you. Anyway, what else did I have here? Something about being old and wise. Well, first you have to be young and stupid. So, but anyway, I'll just finish up and say this is not goodbye, but I'll see you later.
Well, I prepared some notes, but I don't know if I was prepared for talking, because it's obviously always doing a rap is, well, where is that? Well, just to help me here, and I think I'll start with I won't take too much. I have one or two things to say, and I'll start with a word, and I'll finish with the same word, and the word is team. So the first words are to thank the team. Of course, thank Joaquim for this opportunity, for the idea, for applying for the ERC, which is very important, of course, and choosing this group of people that, of course, Gonçalo and André also were with us. So remember them. And no, they're still alive. Okay, sorry. So, of course, from my personal point of view, this is more or less what I've tried to learn, because I came from a different, well, I'm a physicist, trained physicist. Then I studied history of science with Henrique Leitão and at our center here in Lisbon. And I thought 6 years ago that I knew some things about cartography, but it was fast realizing that I didn't, and I had to start studying a lot. So the team was a great place, and of course, I was remembering the first meeting here. I was, oh Jesus, what are they talking about? These people know so much about this, and like Ricardo, I still think a bit, but this time I was able to follow some talks well, easily. I don't know. But well, my path here, just to be quick, started with the cartometric techniques. And I think Joaquim highlighted that it was important to train people. Gonçalo was really great doing this kind of job. Also learning from Joaquim. We were all trained in this cartometric techniques. So I hope that we can take this into the future. I don't know how, but the knowledge was passed. So ERC, if you're listening to this, it was done. So of course, contributing to the Medea-Chart as a team, the main work was done by Ricardo, Joaquim, and but we all contributed the work of the team. The outreach, Anna already talked about it whenever it's possible. And finally, and this takes me back to one of the questions that Joaquim also highlighted, and I will recall this opportunity to contribute with this book, that I must say that I was not convinced at first. When I presented the book some months ago, I told this, and I tell you again, I was not convinced with the work that had to be done. Why? Because I realized it would be monstrous work. But Joaquim and Henrique insisted and insisted. I started by, if I select and modernize the texts and prepare them to you guys to study them, to do your job with the text, it will be enough. But then they said, hey, please do some notes, set a path, and try to take people into a way of in the research. I don't know if I was able to do that or not, but the book is out there. If you don't have it still, please go, and it's free. It's our present. So it was a great experience. Sometimes I don't believe the book was done. It took me a lot of time, a lot of learning, a lot of suffering. Yes, lots of suffering. And but well, I think that in a way, like Joaquim said, I think that we started, or well, we didn't start because many of us already, and we seen today with Tony's such an expert still going to these questions. How did cosmographers, cartographers, and pilots deal with the geometric inconsistencies of the early modern charts? Well, this is simply taking maps and nautical charts from, I don't know, the simplest way of dealing with these objects is the commerce with maps. We know that lots of people in our field just praise maps for the value, but this is putting the map in the center of the history of science. I'm not talking about history of cartography. Henrique's and Joaquim's work in the last years has been this. Come on, just join a broader field of history of science. It's so important, and I'm still debating with this, and listening to you all. The contributions today was amazing, and thanks for that. And so I wrap this like I promised, going back to team. That book was not possible without the teamwork. It would be impossible. I would never ever do that book alone in my office or whatever. So this is really important, and I think that maybe I'm a bit sad with the end of this project, exactly because it was the sum of the parts was bigger than the parts itself summed, or something like that. So it's so important to have this kind of teams working together and being able, like Joaquim many times defended, to go to the other room and ask questions, or dropping an email because you're well, with the pandemics you're at home, but it doesn't matter. Give a call. So the field really develops more and faster with a team. And so, like Joaquim said, if you have this possibility, if you have a project in your mind, just apply for this fundings and get your teams together, because I think the field really benefits from that. So thank you, the team, Medea team, everybody. It was a great ride. Thanks.
So goodbye to everybody. So let me just tell you briefly how I met Joaquim. This was, 10, 12 years ago. So I was leading a group on history of early modern science with people, doing history of mathematics, history of instruments, history of astronomy, a number of colleagues. And I've always been very interested in cartography on a very amateurish level, but with a definite interest for many years. So at a certain point I met Joaquim and I hired him as a postdoc. So he started his career after his PhD as a postdoc in the group. And we started working together, and we were having lots of fun, so discussing all the time, writing papers, drinking beer, so academic life at its best. But then Joaquim applied to the RC, and he started this group on his own, and of course I jumped in, and we have continued. So this is how we met. Let me just tell you briefly what we tried to do and what type of problems I tried to, working with him, I tried to work on within the Medea team. And then you will see by comparing with the actual published results, how far did we got. We still have a couple of more papers to write, I think, to try to advance in this story. So the problem, I think it's easy to understand. We work with two types of objects, which we know very well. So we work with Ptolemaic maps, and we work with nautical charts. And we continuously talk about this. The problem is that we know very well in an essential manner what a Ptolemaic map is. So you take the Ptolemaic prescription, so longitudes and latitudes for as many places on Earth as you can get, with the highest accuracy that you can get, and then you figure out some rule, some projection to put them in a flat surface. And this is the object. It turns out to be this. Now, for the nautical chart, we don't know. It is not as simple. How can we characterize what's there? What is this object? How did it came about? How was it drawn? You don't have a Ptolemaic prescription. You don't have projections. You don't have the same type of approach. It's a completely different approach. How do we know that it's a completely different approach? Well, we know for two sets of reasons, because the texts are very clear on this, so they reveal to us, as if we didn't know, they reveal to us that they are charting following the nautical techniques that they are using. So they are using rhumps, distances, at the later period, latitudes, and they clearly tell us that they are putting points using the nautical techniques, and this is a very deep observation. And then nobody talks about projections. I mean, you don't have any text talking about projections. So this is the first part of the story. But then this gets complemented when one looks at the chart and one confirms this, because by looking at the chart, one can confirm this. The problem then is that the way to construct is completely, I don't even know how to describe it, haphazard. I mean, you just, if you consider carefully how nautical charts were made, you had this sphere. At each point, you imagine a flat surface. So, for the more mathematically minded, this is like a tangent plane to the surface at that point. And there, you measure rhumps, or you use the rhumps, the distances and latitude, and you put, and then you move around, and then you have another flat surface, and then you do the same, but you put all the same results in the same flat surface. It's a mess. So nautical charts have this problem. What are they really? This inherent complexity is apparent to specialists for many, many years. And how do we know this? We know because they shut up. If you take Gauthier d'Alcher's beautiful book on, the dissemination of Ptolemaic geography, or his superb text in History of Cartography on the Ptolemaic tradition of chart making, at a certain point, he and anyone else, but I'm talking, I'm talking about a much admired scholar, of course, when then he opens a section saying, well, I've discussed everything about the transmission of Ptolemaic. Now we should be talking about the relation between Ptolemaic cartography and nautical charts. Oh, but this is so complex. And then and he goes and he basically shuts up. And so nobody wrote about this. And years ago there was a very good workshop at the Warburg Institute on Ptolemaic geography. And if you take the proceedings, beautiful papers, Ptolemaic geography and optics, beautiful. Ptolemaic geography and arts, beautiful. Ptolemaic geography, and you look there is not one page on Ptolemaic cartography and nautical charts. And when you have this problem, when you have this type of, pattern, when, very good scholars, when they come to this topic, they just simply become silent, you know that you have a super problem in your hands. And so this is what Joaquim and I try to do, try to understand what is really a nautical chart, so that then, after that, we could understand the relation between nautical charts and Ptolemaic cartography. Because if there is not a deep comprehension of what a nautical chart is, we will never understand this debate. And what was the final? I will finish, because otherwise this will become a lecture. So what was the final? Well, not final, because we're still working on it. The most important thing that we came to realize was that we were observing an enormous problem throughout the 16th century. And the problem throughout the first hints of this clash, because it is relatively simply to show the two paradigms are incompatible. This means you cannot, taking data from a nautical chart, make a good Ptolemaic map. You had to do lots of reverse engineering. No, never mind. You cannot do this. And in the other way, perhaps a little bit better. But this way, it's impossible. It's impossible to do. There is an inherent incompatibility because of the two methods, and because cosmographers, cartographers, pilots, mathematicians, astronomers only very, very slowly became aware of this incompatibility. You have an enormous set of discussions, debates, polemics, infighting, etc., that has been always read as cosmographers versus pilots, or theoreticians versus practical people, artisans, whatever. But at its core, there lies a very subtle technical problem which is directly connected to cartography and that nobody had clearly understood. And the problem is that these two paradigms are incompatible. And these two communities that are based on two types of cartography will clash because of an extremely subtle point that they themselves cannot even grasp. This is what we tried to do. I think we did some advance. I think there's still much more to be done. But I hope that we can continue. Thank you very much.
It is working. Well, of course, I'd like to pass the word to the public, and to give the tone, I humbly asked Tony Campbell to say some initial words about his own experience in collaborating as an external advisor with the Medea-Chart team. Please.
Well, thank you. I mean, I haven't really prepared anything very much, but to respond to a repeated comment that people, as it were coming into this thing without knowing anything about charts, and were perhaps concerned about it. I mean, when I was asked to, it was suggested I might do the chapter on Portland charts for the volume 1 of the history. Well, I said, well, yeah, I don't really know about Portland charts. I don't think about it at all. And they said, yes, that's why we asked you. And I mean, I think, because if you want a fresh view of something, the thing is to find somebody not who already thinks they know it all, but who actually will learn on the job. And this is what obviously has happened here, and I think that your team, a marvelous team you've got, have obviously benefited each other and indeed us. I mean, the work that I'm working on rather slowly at the moment, in which I gave at Tracy this morning, I mean, that was almost certainly impossible without Medea. I mean, I wouldn't have set out doing this, trying to look at lots and lots of different maps and so forth, if it was going to be very difficult or take an awful long time to try and find images of them, and particularly images that actually were clear enough to use. Well, now it's just so easy, and it's very easy to forget when when I mean I can sort of remember when Google was announced and so forth, and in about 2 weeks it totally changed everything to do with searching. And likewise, when I started in the 80s, I had to go to the British Library, which is quite near where I was British Museum, where I was working, and to use the Yusuf Kamar. And I don't know anybody here. We got any bodybuilders here? Yeah. Okay, all right. I mean, the thing that it's monstrous. I couldn't lift them now. Monstrous great volumes, and had to try and read off of the names, which the Portland chart makers didn't really take into consideration future scholars when they so you're standing on your head trying to read these words upside down and so on, cricking in the neck, and then you had a very large table and go around the other side and all that. Anyway, so and then along came Puhadis and for us up to 1470 or whatever. Practically everything was in there. I mean, not as, but to the point where not nearly as good as Medea in terms of quality and of course the extending to the later period. And again, you take, I mean, that's the danger of it. You just take these things for granted, and I mean, you need to stand back and think, well, what was it like beforehand? And I think if I do that with Medea, it was that, as I said, I wouldn't have taken this on, and you might think, well, would have been a good thing, I mean, I think probably that's. I want to reiterate what a marvelous team you've got here, and the way that perhaps the disparate backgrounds that they have, and so on. I think that's a secret to the blend, and you don't want to get together people who are already kind of. Probably some of us shouldn't be getting together because we've been around so long. We've probably tainted each other with wrong thinking and so forth. So yes, and I mean I feel sorry from the outside at the thought that in fact, if that's the case, this thing is going to sort of just come to an end, and I think it can't. I think it can't be allowed to come to an end. It's too important, and there's still too much to do. I mean, you've done a lot, but there's still too much to do. And once there isn't any more to do, I shall give up writing certainly. But I think it will outlive me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think this is the only microphone to pass to the public.
Well, obviously, I see I'm listed as an advisor. I mean, it's very kind of you. I'm not quite sure what I advised on because I think you gave me most of the advice that I needed, but that's another matter. But I have to say I would agree with Tony that having a group like this who are actually interested in what I'm interested in has been an immense, well, it's been a privilege. And I remember, Joaquim, if you don't mind me saying so, you suddenly appeared in our firmament. I can't remember exactly which of the conferences it was, but you will. And which one was it? I can't remember. Sorry? Right, yes, I believe I was there too. Anyway, you were, if I remember correctly, a student of the great Tobler, is that correct? Walt Tobler.
Walt Tobler was my
yes.
formal advisor.
Yes.
That's the correct.
And I remember as a very young person, posted, so to speak, to the map room, that I was rather upset by the thought that I might have to deal with this sort of stuff because I was a historian. And then you appeared, and I realized that you had a friendly face and that you actually knew an awful lot about things to do with navigation and charts, and you had managed to deal with mapper analysis, and you could explain it, which was, from my point of view, very important. So, from my point of view, I'm extremely pleased to have been associated with this wonderful project, and I'm afraid to say I still have quite a lot to do myself, should I live that long, on the sort of subjects that you've been discussing with Henrique and Leitão. Henrique, I can never pronounce your second name, I apologize. And I hope we will be able to continue in this lovely collegial way discussing these matters and, you know, have a sort of private or public or whatever networking arrangement in the years to come, irrespective of the wonderful database. Thank you.
Hi. I'm here speaking in the name of the younger ones, the ones that have 20, 21, that are graduating from the licenciatura. That I can say that I'm in the first year of my master, and I have used so much of Medea database to do jobs, to assignments in university. And what I can say for me is the same that I can say for a lot of my friends that I have in different areas, friends that are giving classes to the secondary students, and they're using those maps because they can see them. So I would just like to say thank you for making a database that is free. Truly, thank you to all of you, and please do more things like this. Articles are great, we learn a lot from them, but databases, spaces with information, historical sources, available online, good quality. For example, Biblioteca Nacional Digital, BND, here in Portugal, quite helpful to Sigma, the Luis Silveira, with the administrative side of Portugal. Those type of things are fantastic for people so unwise like me that need to go there, see, okay, it's like this, let me compute it, and well, oh, this is fantastic. And just that. Thank you. Thank you for all the jobs. Thank you for the lectures, for the articles. Keep working, because the younger ones that don't know nothing like to learn.
I see I've been invited to speak. No, I will be very brief. Not to repeat myself, I would also like to first to thank you for sure for all that you have done. It's been a great pleasure to interact with you, very humbly. I mean, I see myself as well listed as advisor. I would say advisor and learner, because I have learned so much from all of you. So, and it has been a pleasure to interact with you. Really, I felt very safe always talking to you with all confidence, and as Šima said, it's a great atmosphere, and I mean, I can only hope that will continue in the future. So on that, I have no doubt. But, I mean, on one side, I'm sad as well that the project ends, but I'm sure that things will continue. And at one point, I also think that that research, it's good that it has deadlines. It's good that we say, okay, we give ourselves 5 years to accomplish something, and we may accomplish 100% or 150% or 75%, whatever, but at least we have this deadline. And then we wrap up, and then we have new ideas, new questions, and we'll open up a new project. I think that's a healthy thing, rather than trying to prolong things. Why not? I mean, the only thing I hope is that all this know-how, all these relationships, all that will somehow continue in the future and be applied to new endeavors.
That challenge of mine to the younger people, what I have to get you.
You know, I speak very bad in English. Aussi, je vais m'exprimer en français. Et surtout parce que je veux remercier tous ceux qui ont organisé ces meetings, ces workshops. Je suis venu, j'y ai participé 4 fois depuis 2016. Et je tiens à remercier Tony Campbell qui m'a autorisé à publier ce qu'il avait écrit sur la carte d'Avignon. Je remercie aussi Ramon Pujade, qui n'est pas là, mais qui m'a dit de vous transmettre ses amitiés qui m'a aussi autorisé à publier ce qu'il vous avait envoyé en 2018, si je ne me trompe pas, sur cette carte, c'est le texte. Et je tiens à remercier bien sûr toute l'équipe de Medea pour tout ce qu'ils ont fait pour moi, parce qu'ils m'ont permis d'acquérir sur mes vieux jours beaucoup de connaissances sur les cartes nautiques du Moyen-Âge. Et j'avoue que j'ai appris énormément de choses grâce à vous. Merci beaucoup.
Well, I'll just say very few words, which are that I think we've all benefited from the team, as Bruno said, continuing to focus on nautical charts. Not just the fact that you've organized these conferences, but the mere fact of knowing that there's a team working on nautical charts has, I think, served as an inspiration to all of us to continue our own studies throughout these 6 years. So that the mere existence of the team has served as very fruitful inspiration. So thank you very much for all the effort and energy that's gone into organizing, founding, organizing, and running this project that has really benefited us all and so much, and has given us all so much pleasure.
Yes, I wanted to thank you too about those projects, and congratulations, because I think that the actual academic field of projects, European projects, is very challenging for every university in Europe and in the world to work by projects with short term like that, and you don't know what your team and your work will be in the future. I think it's hard. It's really hard for us. But thank you to have made it, and thank you very much for the database. And I really hope that this database will have enduring and a future here. Maybe you said in the Hydrographic Institute here, that would be wonderful, that this card could be a collaborate thing that we can add, and we can make growing up in the future with all this very nice and warm team. Thank you very much.